Human trafficking is the recruitment and movement of people, most often by means such as fraud or force or coercion or deception, and it's for the purposes of exploitation. And people can be exploited in lots of different ways. People often think about sexual exploitation, and that certainly happens. About a third of the victims of trafficking in the UK are victims of sexual exploitation. But we also see people trafficked for lots of different things. So domestic servitude, where people are working as servants in people's private households, and also in a variety of industrial settings, in agriculture, construction, and also things like car washing and nail salons. It's really difficult to estimate the scale of human trafficking with any reliability. People have tried. So in 2012, the International Labour Organization estimated that as many as 21 million people worldwide were in situations of forced labour as a result of human trafficking. So a really huge problem, and a global problem as well. Our paper published today in the American Journal of Public Health reports on the findings of a survey of male and female survivors of trafficking who are in contact with post-trafficking services in England. The majority of women were trafficked for either sexual or domestic exploitation, and the majority of men trafficked for labour exploitation. So more than 2/3 of the women reported having been forced to have sex during the time they were trafficked. And that was 95% of the women who'd been trafficked for sexual exploitation, but interestingly, over half of the women who'd been trafficked for domestic servitude also reported that they'd been forced to have sex during the time they were trafficked. And we found that among the trafficked women in our sample, 4/5 of them were displaying high levels of either depression, anxiety or PTSD. And these were women who'd been out of the trafficking situation on average for 16 months. So even at this extended time since trafficking, very high levels of psychological distress. And among the men who on average had been out of the trafficking situation for 3 months, 2/5 were reporting high levels of symptoms of anxiety, depression or PTSD.
First, I want to say that it's incredibly impressive that the Department of Health did commission this study and that they invested a significant amount of money, almost £500,000, to try to prepare the National Health Service to respond to human trafficking and be part of a joint referral mechanism with the police, with the immigration services, with the statutory services, civil society, and the shelters. I think that shows the real dedication to making sure trafficked people have health services they need after they get out of these experiences. And I think they also recognize, as we do, that the NHS has a critical role to play for not only providing care for people who survive a trafficking experience, but also for potentially identifying people who are trafficked.
We can really take from the study that people are going to need support to recover from their experiences. And for some people, this might mean psychological support. We haven't got good evidence on what psychological interventions work for trafficked people, and this really needs to be a priority now for future research in this area. We need to know what interventions we can put in place to really help people to recover from their experiences.
Trafficking for various forms of exploitation is very diverse. It appears to be somewhat prevalent, at least amongst the victims that we were finding. It's prevalent in various sectors. So I think the public has to give some second thoughts to who's providing their services. I know I do when I go to the car wash and I wonder who's washing my car and how hard and how many hours people are working. We found people were working well over 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day. Who's working in your construction sites and who's working in the nail salons. Other studies around the world have found that people working in nail salons are exploited. I think we have to think about who's providing our cleaning services. I think it's a matter of taking a second thought, just giving the time for a second thought as to who's providing your services and what conditions they're working in. And then if you stop, you look, you think, you consider whether the person providing your services is in a work situation that could be abusive, that might be holding them captive, that might be something akin to modern slavery, then you may want to give a call to one of the numbers that are online to provide information for suspected cases of trafficking.